Okay, we are on the second part of this tutorial. And so this part's going to require us to go ahead and pick out some files from the original Neverwinter Nights 2 files from its data folder. And these are going to be the files that we're pretty much going to use to reference our new files, our new objects that we're intending to incorporate. Uh, to do so, you'll follow a path to your installation. I use the Steam version, so mine are usually hidden in the Steam part of my folder. So I'm gonna go to Files. I have it right here in shortcut, but if you need to know exactly where it's at, if you have the Steam version, you want your C drive, program files 86, Steam apps, common, Neverwinter Nights 2, and then you'll have all your files here. I just go ahead and go to data, and this is where all your vanilla files are at. Now, these are all the files that come with the original installation of Neverwinter Nights 2, and most of these, as far as creators go, you don't touch, you don't need to. The ones that are most important for creators are usually the material files, which are these ones right here, and then the models files. Now, you'll see that the naming rhythm is kind of the same with models and materials. Is because for every model, you have its materials. Normally, you'll be working off this folder just to pull your files from. Neverwinter Nights 2 or NWN2 underscore models. You won't really need to pull the materials because we're not looking to touch the materials in any way. It doesn't really matter. And the method I use doesn't really require them. And often, well, very, very seldom actually, you have to go through these folders. These are just the models that got added on through patches and updates. But essentially, everything you need is going to be in the NWN2 underscore models. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to go ahead and go back here to my working files. Turbine, okay. Now, one thing I didn't do before is I didn't actually pull the actual model over. Instead, I just pulled out its textures, which is kind of on my part. So we're going to go ahead and turbine and scarf here. And I'm going to go to models, and this is the actual models. I'm just going to copy those over. There we go. Now we have the OBJ models that we're going to work with in 3D. And I'm going to go and close that out. Don't need that open anymore. So the data files. This is the data NWN2 underscore models. I'm going to go and open that up. And then this is where you have all your generic models. Now, I won't get into the naming algorithm right now and how that goes. When we export, I'll get into a little more of that, just because it'd be hindering right now the process. Okay, so we're gonna scroll down to P. If you notice, they all start with they're in alphabetical order unless you have yours switched by name. You want to go all the way down to where it starts with P, and in a lazily way, I'm just gonna explain it here. So we're gonna look for the human male head, because we're gonna need that head to reference what to put our hat on. So I'm gonna go down to P, and I'm gonna look for HH, which is human. So you have DD, that's for dwarf, and we're gonna go down to EE, that's for elf, GG, that's for gnome, and HH. Well, we're in the HH now, but what HHF means human female. We're actually looking for HHM. Okay, here we are. HHM. Now, this goes on. There's different reasons for why this is like this. Let's just focus on what we need to learn here. So we're looking for HHM head 01, which is right there. I'm going to go ahead and copy that over. You can just drag and drop it. It's a RAR or a zip file, so it won't actually pull it from it. It'll copy it on over. And we're going to copy it there as a reference. We're also going to need a file to reference it off of as far as the hat goes. So we're going to choose a cloth hat 1. So we're looking for P, H for human, M for male, underscore CL for cloth, head 01 or helm 01. Okay? So CL, human, male, cloth, helm 1. And I believe that's like the one that kind of leaves a ponytail in the back. And we're going to use that right now. Now, I'm going to purposely make an error when creating this file. And we're going to go back and clean it up afterward, because you may at times come upon this error. But I'm going to go ahead and prepare for that now and just grab the file now so I can save time and not grab it later. So I'm going to look for HHMPF Helm 01 as well. we won't touch that yet, but we'll just drop it in there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop this down just in case I need it. Constantly, I come back to it every now and then in case errors are made, or I delete the file or overwrite. And in case I can just simply pull it back up. If you're gonna be creating a lot, I would recommend creating a short link to your data folder, or just creating a zip file of all the ones that you constantly come back to, so you're not having to go back and forth and drag and drop. I also do keep a copy of these files in my main working directory that I absolutely never override. I always pull from them for the model, and I save out the actual model elsewhere. So I never overwrite them. I always have them prepared and ready to go. Outside of a zip file, because Blender cannot read a zip file. It'll only read actual files. So I'm gonna drop that down. Okay, I know I've been kind of slow on the process, but let's go ahead and fire up Blender. Now yours may start up faster than mine does, but I've been using this thing so long, I think it's starting to give out on me, because normally Blender does not take that long to start up. So I have a scene here. Normally when you start Blender, you kind of start it at an angle kind of like that. It has a little block here, and it has a camera and a light. I normally delete those. I can probably show you how to do mine later. I'm actually going to put a blend file with this tutorial as well, so you can kind of steal my scene here. You can create your own. I'm just handing you mine in case you like it. I've placed 3 lamps, so that way when you import a model, you can kind of view it from each way of shadow, so you can kind of get a depth, a view of the depth of the character or of the model you're working with. I've also I have it set already to a different type of viewing mode. There's one viewing mode, and the second viewing mode, which is which is what I like using. I also work with an emulated third button. Now, I recommend this. You don't have to if you find using your middle mouse button works best. I tend to use this because it's just a habit that I fell with, and I always use. So I go to user preferences, okay? And depending on which version you're using, it may be somewhere else, it may not. And then I will go ahead and go to, where is this thing at? Give me 1 second. Inputs, here we go. Emulate 3-button mouse. And this will helps me emulate the middle mouse by using the Alt key. And I'll explain that right now. So if you just go ahead and click that if you'd like. If not, just ignore this section, save user settings, and close it out. Now, I'm assuming that by this time you already have your MDB plugin tool installed in Blender. If you don't, there are tutorials on how to do that on the Nexus Mods forums and on the creators Discord. You can ask and someone will help you out there. Okay, so now that we've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean. So normally if you hold down the middle mouse button and turn, you'll get this effect going on, where you can hold down Alt and middle, or just hold down the middle mouse and turn it. I'm actually holding down Alt because I tend to use Alt and left click to turn, Alt and Control to zoom in and out. So it means holding down Alt Control and using the left click and scrolling up and down with the action, moving the mouse up and down. You get that. And then I believe it's Alt Shift for panning. There you go. Alt Shift, push your mouse in and pan. So Alt to twist, Alt Control zoom, Alt Shift pan. Once again, Alt click turn, Alt Control zoom, Alt Shift pan. I'm going to go ahead and click Control 1, and that's going to put me back at this view, which is our standard view for modeling. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and import our first model. Import Neverwinter Nights 2, and this is a head model. So what we're going to do is we're going to find an armature. We're going to remove the doubles from the model, and it actually is a head model. So we're going to put MDB as a head model. Now, not necessarily important for helmets, more for hairs. Now, I could be wrong. Normally, I don't think it matters whether you click head model or if it's not, simply because we are technically importing a head model, so we want to make sure the bones are correct. But when we export the model, it doesn't matter it being a head model or an actual body, because the bone or the weights we'll affix it to are both are used in the actual armature. Because the head model, let me explain this better. So the head model, when you click that, it uses a different set of bone structures. So you need to know, or the engine needs to know if this is a head model, because head models use a more complex bone structure. In that, when there are cutscenes, the little grooves in the skin and the weighting in the face moves when someone talks. That's if you want to start creating heads, and that's its own little thing. But for the sake of this, let's just click head model, okay? And we're going to go into our working files. As you know, I had mine on my desktop, working files, and I placed it here, PHHM head 01. I'm going to double click that. Now, every now and then you'll get a little error that pops up, and in this case it didn't for me, but it happens. It's just a random, it's just some sort of Python script error, and you won't get everything in here. And you'll know that because you'll be missing your calls file or something you'll be missing. Your best bet is just to delete everything that it did import, or just undo by clicking on it and clicking off of it. And I'm going to go to file, or I'm sorry, clicking off of it and hitting Control Z. I should have told you that. Control Z, undo. And I'm going to import it again. So import Neverwinter Nights 2. And I'm going to click working files. It saves your recent directories here. And I'm going to click HHM head 01. And I did it. Okay, so it imported correctly. If you reach that issue, hopefully I explained it at least somewhat well enough so you can understand that. So I'm going to go ahead and use the middle mouse to scroll in and out. That's all I use it for, the wheel, is just to scroll in and out. And I'm going to hit Control Shift to pan. Okay? And I'm going to use the middle mouse to scroll, or you can hit Alt Control Zoom. I just prefer the middle mouse because it's simpler for that one. Pan. Okay? And then I'm going to hit Alt and the mouse to look around. So as you know, there's like some weird stuff going on in the head here. I'm not going to explain why that is. All I'm going to do is just ask you to follow this direction. It doesn't matter because this is not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on making a hat. So I'm going to delete these LO1 and LO2 files. There's a reason why they're there. We don't need them. We don't want them. There's no point. So this, actually, we don't need the FH hair 01 either. So delete that. Pretty much delete everything but head 01. So the eyes, delete. Head 01's there. We only need to delete these ones. Delete, and LO1, delete. Okay? And, yeah, we don't even need the calls right now because we're going to go ahead and delete the hierarchy. Because if you delete calls, it has a hierarchy, which means it has bones within it. So if you just delete it, it's going to bring out the bone. Okay? So you have to delete the hierarchy, which means everything within it. We'll keep the skeleton because we're going to need that anyway. So what I did is I just clicked this little arrow. This arrow means no matter what, you can't touch it, can't do anything with it. And that's good. It's usually if you don't want to accidentally click it and move it around without you knowing it. And then we're going to turn off its visibility, which hit in the eyeball here because we're not going to need the visibility. So we have this only. And if I hit tab, it turns it into edit mode. Okay, now the reason why it's all black is because it can't find the texture. We didn't export the texture, which is fine. If you really need to see it, you can go to UV editing and just hit A to select all of it. See how it just can't find the texture? That's the UVs. Just create a new one by hitting the plus button. Okay, and then just bring it like to like whatever color you want it to be. You want to, let's go pink, just to make it stand out. Okay, click OK, and there we go. Go back up here. Go back to default, and there we go. There's our face. Okay, that's just the standard Neverwinter Nights 2 vanilla male head 01, the very first face you see in character creation of the menu. Generally, I try to fit everything around this head because it's basically what everything is based off of. When creators create content, they usually use this head as reference, or one of the vanilla heads as reference. This is the one that's best because most people have aimed to fit around this head. So why not we do it as well? Makes for better integration. So that being done, we are ready to import our OBJ file, our turbine that we've downloaded. So we're going to go to File, Import, Wavefront OBJ. Okay, don't worry about touching this unless you know what you're doing. It's just if you're well aware of using Z space and how operators go, good to go. But other than that, we'll just fix it in post. When I say that, it means we'll fix it when we import. So we see the scarf turban here. We're gonna click the OBJ. Oh, and it's very huge, I'm sure. There it goes, bam. Now it's big. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the object. It should be, it's here. It looks like it's sphere 1 and sphere 2. It looks like one of them is the scarf, and one of them is the actual turban. And see how that is? See that? I'm gonna hit Control 1, put it back to normal. I'm gonna pick these up again. What I'm gonna do here is I'm going to go ahead and select both of them by clicking it and holding Shift and clicking the other one. You can also right click. Right click is how we select, by the way, in Blender. You should know that. And then hold Shift to right click that. We're gonna hit Z to turn it into wireframe mode so we can see the head behind here. See that? Peekaboo. Okay, zoom out. And we're gonna hit S for scale, and it's gonna scale down to the actual, see this little points at? That's where the scaling will go to. Kind of eyeball it right now. We'll tweak it. So we're gonna pull it to about right there. Go ahead and pick it up right underneath. Okay, zoom in a little bit. Let's go ahead and place it on his head, just in this right here. And the reason why you want to be in this mode, if you're not in this mode, if you clicked out of for some reason, you got into a different mode, is because you clicked the number 5 on the number pad, and that kind of puts it into some sort of in a different mode. It's also here. If you go to View, you have Perspective mode, okay, and then you have Orthographic mode. Perspective mode is pretty much what this is. This is if you want to look at it from a perspective. When you're modeling, you tend not to use perspective mode. You want to use orthographic. There we go. I don't know. I'm about to say orthopedic. What? Okay, orthographic mode. And the reason that being is because you'll get precise. See how it does that? You'll get a precise, accurate measurement. So we're gonna go ahead and keep picking it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just eyeballing it right now. Now, this may look like it's okay on the head, but when you export it, it's gonna be huge. A little bit goes a long way in model creation. You'll learn that slowly but surely, either the easy way or the hard way. Okay, so we're gonna scale it down just a little bit more. Okay, I want to say about right there. We can always adjust it afterward. And now if we press 3, the number 3 on your number pad, it's going to view it from a side view. Okay, and if you notice, it's facing the wrong way. So before we do anything more, we're going to hit rotate twice. Just double click it twice. If you click it once, it's going to be a live rotation. But if you click it twice, it's going to allow you to use the parameters of rotation here. And I'm just going to rotate it on the Z axis, I believe, 180 degrees. And it only rotated the bottom object. So I'm going to click the top object and rotate it here as well. We don't have to click rotate twice now. Just do it here. But it works as well. Okay. And so now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and right click this. If for some reason you're getting this, it's because you're not in edit mode. So you'll want to hit tab, edit mode, tab edit mode, tab object mode. Okay. And so we're going to click this one in object mode. If you don't know you're in object mode, it'll say down here object mode, or you can go into edit mode. But we're going to stay in object mode. Go ahead and right click the object here and right click this object. And we're going to go ahead and bring them back to how you want it to sit on the head. Okay, maybe a little higher. Why not? Let's go ahead and scale it up a little bit bigger. The Neverwinter Nights 2 head is kind of weird. It's not accurate in terms of how heads look or how heads are shaped actually. So as long as we got the side view and we got the front view, we're in business. We can tweak it later, we can adjust it, but as long as we're within a good parameter and we hit Z to jump out of wireframe mode, we kind of see what's going on here. Bam, just like that. Okay, now let's take a moment and go ahead and zoom out. Okay. So there you go. So now we have the head on we have the hat on the actual head model. In the end, we're going to delete this head and only export the hat. So don't worry, the head doesn't stay there. Now, for the sake of simplicity on this tutorial, I'm going to take out the scarf because that takes a little bit of extra editing. And right now you don't need to. Maybe I'll create a secondary video with doing that scarf. So for the sake of this tutorial being simple, clean, and easy, I'm going to go ahead and save the file right now under working files. I'm going to call it scarf tutorial. Okay, actually, I'm sorry, turban tutorial. Enter again, and then I'm going to also save as another one and call this scarf in turban. Oops. Underscore tutorial. And twice. Okay. So that being done, I'm actually working now in the scarf and I should have named them opposite because I'm working in the wrong tutorial now. So that's no biggie. I'm just gonna close out the file. Bam. This is a good opportunity to teach you how to open up a file. Not that you need to. Okay. So I have here. I'm just gonna reopen my turban tutorial because we're not doing the scarf one. I'm just gonna drag it. I have to drag and drop it myself because I have two versions of Blender, and when I just double click it, it opens it up in the 2.79 version. I don't like working on that version. I like this one. Just my own preference. So now that we have this turban tutorial open, I'm going to go ahead and delete sphere 2. We could have done that early on, but it was important to get it to this phase. That way in the next tutorial, I can show you how to properly adjust the mesh here to fit around the face better. But because this is very, very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete it, or you can right click it here on the object mode and hit X and delete. Okay. So now that we've got that done, we're going to click texture. We're going to go into texture mode. The reason why this is like this is because we haven't assigned this to a texture yet. And the UVs are there, but they're not assigned. Now, if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. No big deal. Let's get into that now. We're going to hit tab to go into edit mode. And we're going to hit A. A selects all the vertices within that object. A. Okay? We're going to go into UV editing. Okay? And this is the UVs for the file. We're going to click A. And it has nothing attached to it. It has no texture attached to the UVs. This is where the UVs are located on whatever map you put it on. Okay. Now, these are already situated and sorted for one type of map, the map we worked on earlier. So we're going to go ahead and click open, and we're going to find that map, and we're going to click turban, and we saved it out as BG turban toot _D from Photoshop, if you remember from the first segment. So we're going to click that, double click it. And well, it automatically fits because it was made for that map. See how we have all the styles here? Okay, so we're going to go back into default mode, and there we go. Now it has a texture assigned to it. It looks kind of, yeah, not that great. It looks kind of funny, but we're not here to make the best thing. We're just here to make the most simplest thing, get the knowledge you need from it, and create something better. Now, if we had the turban, I'm sure it would have came out a lot different, considering it very realistic, but because I don't want to overwhelm in this tutorial, we're just going to keep it to this, okay? So, let's see, we have that. This is the part now where we just go in and we tweak it to how we want it to sit on the head. So this is the fun part for you because you get to shape it how you want it. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go back into scale mode. I'm going to hit tab and go into wireframe mode, and then go into edit mode. When I hit tab, or if I go down here and just go to edit mode, I'm going to click all, and now you have options. Okay, you have scale. Hit S for scale. Scales it in all 3 X, Y, and Z axes, which is always not the best thing since we're working on the side axis here. We'll notice that the only ones we ever really want to touch that we'll be able to see are the Z axis and the Y axis. So if I were to scale it on the X axis, which is red, which you can't see, we're scaling it, right? It doesn't look like anything, but when we turn it, look what we did. So we want to make sure we only scale on the axes that we can see, and I know it's sort of a given for anybody into 3D already, but just you never know. So I'm going to hit Control-Z, undo that. I'm going to hit 3 to go back into the side view. I want to make this come up a little bit. So I'm going to scale on, hit S, and then hit Z to lock in the Z axis. I'm going to bring it in. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and you can manually grab it here. And all helmets now. All helmets you put in, there's within Neverwinter Nights 2, they have to be just right above the ear, because when we inject the helmet, there's a special file that you inject when you make helmets, and it's a material that you put within the actual Blender. You'll see it when we do it, but I'm explaining it now beforehand. you put this file inside, and what it does is it tells the engine whether or not there's hair on the model. Now, it has to be at this certain height, because if you pick it up to about right there, it's going to show the hair, but it creates this massive bald spot um, in the actual file. And I'm going to go ahead and pause 1 second while I answer this phone call.